The Viking sword. The Viking sword emerged across Scandinavia and Europe between the 8th and 11th centuries. It usually had a lobed pommel, a wide fuller, and a short guard. Because quality steel was expensive, Viking swords were valuable possessions. Many were pattern welded or forged from imported Frankish steel, and some were even named and passed down through generations. Their importance is visible in sources such as the Bayeux Tapestry, where swords of this type appear throughout the Norman invasion scenes. In combat, the Viking sword was designed for powerful slashing attacks from behind a round shield. It excelled in close fighting once formations broke apart. Weapons of this type were likely carried at battles such as Stamford Bridge. The arming sword. The arming sword was the standard knightly weapon of Western Europe from the 11th through to the 14th century. It had a short blade and a disc pommel. It was designed to be used alongside a shield, and later with early plate armour. As armour improved, the arming sword evolved with more acute points suited for thrusting into gaps. It also served as a daily sidearm worn during travel and guard duty. Its widespread use is clearly shown in the Majowski Bible, where knights and soldiers carry arming swords in both combat and civilian scenes. These swords were present in major medieval conflicts, such as the Battle of Pavines, where heavily armoured knights fought in dense formations across the battlefield. This versatile blade remained the primary choice. The falchion. The single-edged falchion was common in Western Europe between the 11th and 16th centuries, built purely for cutting power. It had a heavy tip and a curved or straight edge. Falchions appear frequently in medieval art, especially in scenes showing infantry combat. Several examples are depicted in the Majowski Bible. Although less common than double-edged swords, falchions were effective weapons and saw use in large battles such as Crécy, where infantry weapons played an important supporting role alongside the knights and archers. The weapon provided a perfect balance of power and agility for soldiers. Its weight distribution allowed for devastating chops designed to break bones or exploit weaknesses in leather or padded gambeson. The longsword. The longsword became iconic and central to Western European warfare between the 13th and 16th centuries as plate armour advanced. They typically had a long grip, an extended crossguard, and a pointed tip optimised for thrusting. This is extensively documented in fencing manuals such as Codex Wallenstein. In this image you can also see the inverted longsword grip named Mordhau, which is used as means for blunt force. Longswords were carried at battles such as Agincourt, where heavily armoured men-at-arms fought on foot in close formation. The weapon represents the absolute peak of late medieval engineering and combat effectiveness. The longsword played a huge role for the knightly class during the Age of Steel Plate, providing both reach and power. The bastard sword. The versatile hand and half sword, later known as the bastard sword, saw widespread use in Western Europe during the 14th and 15th centuries. It had a wasted grip, a tapered blade, and a long hilt. Its grip allowed both one-handed and two-handed use depending on the situation. This adaptability made it popular among knights during prolonged campaigns. It appears in German fencing manuals such as Thalhoffer's fight books, which show its use in both single combat and battlefield contexts. Weapons of this type were present during conflicts like the 100 Years' War, including battles such as Poitiers, where men-at-arms utilised their versatility against transitional plate armour. Its ability to be used from horseback or on foot made it a prized possession for any professional soldier looking for versatility. The Estoc. The Estoc, also known as the tuck or panzerstech, was developed in Western and Central Europe between the 14th and 16th centuries. It featured a long, edgeless blade with a rigid triangular or square cross-section and an extremely sharp point. The Estoc was specifically designed to defeat plate armour. It relied entirely on thrusting into weak points, such as joints and visor gaps. Estocs appear in late medieval artwork and fencing manuals. Often carried from the saddle as an auxiliary weapon, they were present in decisive conflicts like the Battle of Nancy, reflecting the increasing importance of armour-piercing tools in late medieval warfare. As a specialised thrusting tool, the Estoc was a direct engineering response to the rising dominance of the full steel plate suit. The Claymore. The Claymore, historically known as the two-handed Highland sword, was associated with the Scottish Highlands between the 15th and 17th centuries. It featured a long, double-edged blade and a distinctive forward-angled crossguard, ending in quarterfoil terminals. While the term Claymore was later shared with the basket-hilted broadsword, this two-handed variant appears in Scottish art and burial slabs as a symbol of elite status. These weapons were utilised in conflicts like the Battle of Flodden, where specialised warriors used them to disrupt enemy pike formations. The Claymore required significant skill and leverage to wield. The sword remains a legendary icon of regional identity and the fierce martial traditions of the rugged Scottish Highlands. The Executioner's Sword. The Executioner's Sword was used across Central and Western Europe between the 15th and 18th centuries. It featured a wide, heavy blade with a blunt, rounded tip. The Executioner's Sword was designed solely for delivering a decisive horizontal stroke while the condemned knelt upright. Surviving examples in cities like Nuremberg and Paris often feature lead-weighted tips to increase the momentum of the swing. These swords were judicial tools, documented in civic records as symbols of high justice. The Executioner's Sword was often engraved with moralizing verses to remind the public of divine law. It served as the sword of justice for centuries of European history. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.